Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are we doing in the world? Wherever it is you are coming from on this fine day. Sorry if you hear some noises in the background. I currently have a little pup who is chasing around a glove. Because of all the bones and all the toys, a glove is what is fun for her. But anywho, welcome to Rush to Judgment with Jessica, and I am Jessica. I hope everybody is doing well. I hope everybody has had a wonderful day. I hope everybody continues to have a wonderful day. Oh, so what we are watching today and doing today is trial. It is another bit of the Alexander Jackson trial, day 2. Now, if you haven't been following along, Alexander Jackson is on trial. He is charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder of his mom, dad, and younger sister. He claims there was an intruder in his home, and he wrestled with said intruder, and in that wrestling, he was shot in the foot. There was no intruder ever found. There was no indication of a home invasion. There was not, okay. There was never, don't know. So far, the officers that they've interviewed, or so far the officers that they've that have testified, say there was no signs of break-in or no disturbing, or the house was still fine. And when we watched the body cam footage, the front door was still locked. There wasn't any sign of break-in any other place, so they say. So defense says that they pretty much got tunnel vision when it came to Alex, and they didn't ever really look much further for another suspect in these murders. So there's that. We've had 2, I think this is the 3rd officer that we've talked to so far that has testified. Seen 3 different body cam footage. If you want to see that, this officer that we're about to watch, I believe we finished his direct, and now we're going to get into his cross. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I just did it, and I don't even remember. So I'll catch up with you. But if you want to go back and watch it, go for it. I highly recommend doing so. Yeah. And just a reminder, I am not a lawyer or have any legal expertise. I am just here to give my smartassery and commentary and maybe make it a little fun when in the boring spots. This is what I do. I chat through things. I make comments. That's my thing. So, We shall get started. I'll put this back up here. I'll put me back down here. I think we still have everything set up the way it was.
All right, everybody have a seat, and Ms. Slaughter, you may resume your examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh no, we're still on the state direct.
Officer Brown, when you met up with or when you were met by Investigator Denlinger and Investigator Messina at the hospital, were they equipped with a body camera?
No.
Is that typical for investigators that they're not wearing body cameras?
They typically do not.
You provided someone with your body camera, is that correct?
Yes.
Who was the person that you handed that to or that took that off of your
Investigator Rosenberg.
Bosenberg.
Did your body cam remain with Investigator Denlinger and Messina in the defendant's hospital room for the duration that they were there?
Yes.
And just to be clear, their interaction with the defendant while he was in the hospital room, was that captured in this same video clip?
Yes.
Oh boy, do we get to watch that now too? What's wrong with you? Do you have allergies? It's breathing hard. Ugh.
Turn on that microphone. Sorry. I was having
Johnson.
hearing a lot of that. I don't know if anybody else was. Maybe it's just my age. So I'd like to go over some of that with you, if that's all right.
Okay.
Did you hear it okay?
Most of the video, yes.
All right. At 8:32 and 42 seconds, you remarked there's a big dog on the back porch. You remember that part?
Yes, when approaching the house.
And that dog was not barking, was it?
I don't recall if it was or not.
Okay.
That's so weird.
Today, do you remember hearing any barking at all?
No.
Did you hear any barking on your body cam?
I don't recall hearing barking.
And at 8:34:44, you remarked that the back door is open. The back door right at the end of the landing is open, right?
Yes.
And then there's a conversation when you get inside. One of the officers says, "Who's this down here?" And Alexander Jackson says, "My dad," right?
Yes.
And you said, "What happened?" And he said something that's hard to hear. And he said, "There was a man." Remember that?
A
I
tall
remember him
man.
saying something about there was a man at that point, yes.
And then somebody asks at 8:37, "Who else is here?" And Alex says, "My sister," right?
I don't remember if I heard that or not at the time.
But it's on your body cam, right?
It should be if it picked it up.
And he says, "She's in her room." He being Alex says, "She's in her room." And you said, "Is she okay?" And he said, I think so. Right?
I think so, yes.
And then there's some yelling that goes on at 8:40, and somebody yells at Mr. Jackson, "Hey, no, hey, stop moving." Remember that part?
Yes.
Because originally when you came in, Alex was way down the end of the hall in front of his room. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And then when we see him again in the video, he's very much up close with his father. Is that right?
Yes, he crawled towards his father.
And then at the 8:41:7 mark, you ask him what his name is, and he says, "Huh?" Like H-U-H question mark, like "huh?" Right?
I thought when I asked him what his name was, he told me it was Alex.
Okay. Well, that was my next question. But then you said, "What's your name?" And he says, "Alex." Right?
Yes, he told me his name was Alex.
And you said, "Alex, what happened?" He said, "There was a man." "What man?" He said, "A tall man."
Yes.
At 8:41:54,
Tall man.
Alex says, "Did you get my mom?" Remember that?
Yes.
And you said, "Yeah, we are getting everybody. You're all right, Alex?" He says, "Yeah." Remember that?
I said, "You're Alex, right?"
Oh, got that backwards. Okay. So you said, "You're Alex, right?"
Yes.
And then you said, "Okay, Alex, I want you to relax and worry about yourself right now."
Yes.
And he said, "Okay." And then at 8:42:11, we hear an officer say, "I think he's in shock about all this. I think he's in shock about everything." Was that you or a different officer?
That was me.
At 8:44, an officer asked Alex, "How long ago did this happen? Did you call 911 right away, bud?" And Alex said, "Yeah." Right?
I believe so, but I don't think I asked that question.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you did either, but it is on your body cam.
I think so, yes.
And then somebody asked him, do you guys have cameras here at your house? And Alex says, yeah, one in the front. Remember that?
Yes,
And that's when he's outside on the gurney.
yes.
At 8:48:34, the male paramedic that we see a lot in this video, do you know what his name was?
I don't know his name.
Okay, he says, okay, what number would you give the pain? 10 being the worst pain you've ever felt in your life and 0 being none at all. And Alex said probably a 10, right?
Correct.
At 8:50:31, the male paramedic is having a conversation with Alex in the ambulance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, is that a yes?
Yes,
And he's asking Alex what happened.
correct.
And Alex says, he said, well, the paramedic says, so it's 8:50, what time do you think you got shot? And Alex says, and then I couldn't make that out. Do you know what he said there?
I couldn't make out what he said either.
And the male paramedic says, were you sleeping when this happened? What happened? And Alex said, I was sleeping on the porch. Remember that?
Yes,
And he said, male paramedic said, you were sleeping on the porch? And he goes, yes, my dog, where's my dog? Remember that? He's asking.
I do.
And the male paramedic says, dog's on the porch. Black dog, question mark? Remember that?
I remember them talking about the dog, yes.
At what point on this ambulance ride did you observe them giving Mr. Jackson his fentanyl dose?
I don't know what the fentanyl dose looks like.
So if that was given to him through an IV, it would have been around the time they were setting up the IV, do you think?
I don't know what the fentanyl dose or what the treatments they were doing were.
So you don't know that fentanyl is an anesthetic?
I don't know what they were treating him with. I was not tending to him in that manner.
He's not a
But you do
doctor.
know that was
He
given a
doesn't
dose
know
of
that.
Fentanyl on the ambulance ride. You do know that.
I didn't know he was given fentanyl.
But
How does he know that?
That when you get to the hospital, there's a discussion that your body cam film where he's talking about that he got 100 of fentanyl.
I don't remember talking about fentanyl.
100 what?
And then at 8:51:31, Alex is talking to the male paramedic, and they're again talking about what happened. And Alex says, I ran into him. And the male paramedic says, what's that, Alex? I'm sorry. Alex says, I ran into him. You ran into who, says the male paramedic, and Alex says, the man, right?
Something like that, yes.
And at 8:52:39, the male paramedic says, okay, you ran into him how? I hit him, and the male paramedic says, with like a fist, or kind of I just charged, and he got my foot, right?
Yeah, he said something about he got his foot and was chuckling at that time.
It was hard to hear, but Alex does
Be right back.
while he's in the ambulance, right?
Quietly and briefly, yes.
Alex was crying when he was in the ambulance, correct?
Quietly and briefly, yes.
I think the jury can determine the length of time, don't you think?
Okay.
And again, you don't know at what point he had received the fentanyl, do
I
you?
do not.
And you know that he had a bullet wound to his foot.
Yes,
And you do know that people react differently when they're in shock,
I do.
and that they react differently when they've received something like fentanyl.
I don't know how everybody would react to fentanyl.
Alex describes hearing gunshots to the male paramedic, doesn't he?
I believe so.
And then he saw somebody in the house, right?
Yes.
At 8:56:34, Alex asks, is my sister okay? You heard him ask that, right?
Yes, I believe so.
And nobody tells him whether she's okay or not, do they?
No.
At 8:59:45, Alex asks, did they get an ambulance for my dad?
Correct.
This is after he was crying.
I don't remember if that was before or after.
So at 8:59, Alex can be seen crying, right?
I don't have the timestamp written down in front of me.
And then, as he's crying, he says, did they get an ambulance for my dad?
I remember him asking that question.
He asked it twice, right? And right again, he said, did you get an ambulance for my dad? Right?
I don't remember how many times he asked that.
Okay. And the male paramedic answers, there's somebody there. Right?
I don't remember what the paramedic said. That was a conversation between them.
And then and then Alex says, I hope they find. Do you know what he said after that? When he started off, I hope they find. Do you have in your notes what was said that time?
I don't remember him saying anything along those lines.
The male paramedic answers, well, that I can't tell you. I wasn't there. There was somebody else there. I don't know about your mom or your sister or your dad. Okay? And Alex says, okay. You remember that conversation?
I don't know if I could ever make out those words or if I ever did when I was reviewing the camera.
Do You don't think that conversation occurred?
I don't recall hearing it that way, no.
And then the male paramedic asked Alex about his dad, right?
I don't remember at one point they were asking about the dad, but he did ask about his dad at some point.
No, I'm not asking at what point, but you remember him saying, you remember the male paramedic asked Alex about his dad?
I remember the male paramedic was asking what his father did.
Well, Alex told him what his father did, right?
Yes,
He told him it was computers.
something along those lines, yes.
He designed IT, right?
I don't recall exactly what they were talking about.
Alex's first response was that his dad was retired. Remember that part?
I don't remember their entire conversation.
The male paramedic asked about his mother and your mom, and he said she's a photographer. Yeah, like professional. She's really good.
Yes, they talked about photography.
But that's what Alex said.
About his mother, yes.
The male paramedic asked Alex, what time did you go to bed last night? And Alex said 11. Remember that part?
I don't remember that part of their conversation.
Like you're just retelling the whole thing.
And Alex responded, yeah, it's nice out there. Remember that part?
I remember that.
And then when you hand off Alex out of the ambulance and we see Investigator Lucina and Investigator Denlinger there, you say to them, he's not there right now.
I said something along those lines, yes.
Meaning he's out of it.
What's that?
Meaning that he's out of it, right?
Something along those lines, yes.
And Sarah Lucina, Investigator Lucina says, yeah, I can tell.
I don't remember her reply.
And I expect this part to be played, and I'm not suggesting anything from the prosecution. I know they saw it because this was your involvement, your immediate involvement. But the male paramedic says at a little later after 9/11, 27, vitals have been all stable. I gave him 100 of fentanyl. He's got an 18 in that left AC if you need it. Remember that?
I don't know what any of that means.
Hearing that, that's outside the scope of this witness's knowledge. If it's contained in the video, this witness doesn't have knowledge of it.
Your Honor,
I think he just indicated that from the stand, so.
thank you. In fact, the male paramedic says that twice on your body cam, that he received 100.
Objection, Your Honor, outside the scope of this witness's knowledge.
She knows how to use her mic. Slaughter. That's her name.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Can you redirect, Ms. Slaughter? All right. Then, Officer Brown, you may step down and are free to go.
Thank you.
Councilman, just approach, talk about the schedule real quick, where we're at.
He just doesn't remember anything about his body cam footage.
All right. Going to be you, Ms. Slaughter? All right, Ms. Slaughter, is the state prepared to call its next witness? All right.
Dunbar?
Good morning, Mr. Dunbar. Going to have you come on up over here to the chair to my far left, if you would, sir. And you can have a seat once you're there. Mr. Dunbar, that mic is live, and you can move it around, adjust it however you'd like to get it situated for you. Mr. Dunbar, I'm going to go ahead and swear you in first. Please raise your right hand. Sir, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be giving this morning will be the truth?
I do.
All right, and then you put your hand down. For the record, can you please give me your first and last name and spell them both, please?
It's Ryan, R-Y-A-N, Dunbar, D-U-N-B-A-R.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Slaughter?
Thank you, Your Honor. How are you currently employed?
I'm an investigator with the Cedar Rapids Police Department.
Investigator Dunbar, how long have you been employed with the Cedar Rapids Police Department?
Approximately 6.5 years.
Are you a graduate of the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy or one of the academies in Iowa?
I am.
Which one did you graduate from?
The Cedar Rapids Police Regional Academy,
And can you recall what year you graduated?
2016.
You are current.
Correct.
Have you always been an investigator?
No.
Can you tell us when you became an investigator?
I applied for the investigative division in roughly the spring of 2020, and then was assigned in the fall of 2020.
Prior to becoming an investigator, what role or position did you hold with the Cedar Rapids Police Department?
I was a patrol officer who specialized in OWI, or impaired driving enforcement.
And what does that mean?
Basically, I was a drunk driving car that worked the entire city at night.
Were you a...
He pulled you over if you were swerving.
Still am.
Still am. What does that mean?
That means I'm specialized to detect impairment for drugs, including alcohol.
So just to be clear, when you were a patrol officer in situations where there was an OWI and the person was suspected of being intoxicated or impaired by a drug, were you called in to evaluate them?
Yes.
And you have specialized training outside of normal OWI investigations that make you an expert in drug recognitions. Is that correct?
Correct. I attended approximately a 1-month-long school for Iowa Drug Recognition Expert Program.
Now, you said that you applied in the investigative division.
What do you mean?
Correct.
Within the investigative division,
So you can just look at somebody and say, yep, they're drunk.
Are there multiple types of investigators?
We're all kind of assigned different areas, but we all can work any type of investigation.
What types of different areas? Can you give us some examples of what types of areas of investigation exist within that division?
Sure. For example, I'm currently assigned more or less as a
Homicide.
investigator. We have property crimes, which I would fall under. We have crimes against persons. We have crime scene unit investigators and narcotic investigators and so forth.
You said you specifically are involved in property crimes and burglary crimes?
Mainly, yes.
When you became an investigator, did you receive any additional training on top of what you learned in the academy, your training with your field training officer, your DRE training? Did you get specific investigative training?
Yes.
What did that include?
I remember going to 3 training schools. One was advanced interrogation and interview techniques. Another one was advanced traffic stops. And then I think the third was advanced report writing. Oh, excuse me, it was advanced search and seizure, not report writing. I apologize.
Get on with it.
Investigator, in general,
Slaughter.
you don't work a beat, correct?
Correct.
When you become involved in investigation generally, how are you typically assigned to different investigations?
In example of a
By a
burglary,
supervisor?
reported to a patrol officer, and then let's say it would come back to the investigative bureau, and it might be assigned to me or my partner.
Let me break that down for a second. So a patrol officer generally goes out and responds to a call.
Correct.
When you say it goes back to the investigative bureau, what does that mean?
So their report is reviewed by my supervisor, who then will determine if it holds the solvability criteria to be assigned to an investigator like myself to conduct further follow-up on.
So once that original report is assigned to the investigations bureau, it's reviewed, and if determined by the supervisor, then you would be personally assigned to a specific case.
Correct.
Do you handle calls that occur all throughout the city?
Very rarely.
Are there specific areas that you generally respond to?
So I more or less cover the east side of Cedar Rapids for burglaries. My partner, who covers the west side predominantly, we do go out and assist patrol when we can, when time allows.
Where's the division line between east and west part of the city?
We use the river line as the east and west divider.
So west side of the river is considered west, east side of the river is considered east.
Yes.
And so you work
Holy
on the side of the
shit.
river typically.
Typically, yes.
In June of 2021, specifically, Investigator Dunbar, June 15th of 2021, were you employed as an investigator with the Cedar Rapids Police Department?
Yes.
And did you happen to become involved in an investigation regarding an incident or incidents that occurred at 4414 Oakleaf Court Northeast?
Yes.
Tell us how you became involved in that.
I got to work sometime around 7:30 in the morning and overheard radio traffic about possible shooting or shots fired. At that point, I listened in. Eventually, it was confirmed that there were several deceased individuals, and our supervisors asked myself and other investigators to respond.
And did you respond?
Yes.
Are you assigned a specific marked patrol car?
More or less, it's unmarked that I drive.
So when you received this call, were you at the station?
I was at the station, yes.
Did you then get in your assigned police vehicle and go to the scene?
Yes.
Were you alone?
No, I had Investigator Watkins with me, who was doing a stint with the Investigative Bureau at the time.
Can you tell us, Investigator Dunbar, when you went to the scene, where'd you pull up?
I pulled up. In around the 4200 block of Oak Leaf.
And when you got there,
Pulled
can you
up
tell
out
us
front.
what you did when you arrived?
Sure. We were instructed to canvass the area for any video surveillance, witnesses, or anything else.
Who does that instruction come from?
It would have been either Lieutenant Dave Dostal or Sergeant Josh McAlpin at the time.
So the assignment to conduct canvassing comes from a commander that's on scene.
Correct.
Can you explain to us, when you use the term canvassing, what that means?
Yeah,
Oh
so in this
God,
situation,
Jesus.
we go house to house.
You
We
go
look at
fucking look
footage,
around.
Anything like video footage. We look to see if there's
Like, I hate this shit.
anything else that might be of evidentiary value.
You have to
So as you're looking
explain
at the neighborhood, are you
this
looking at
shit.
the exterior of homes in a neighborhood?
Yes.
And
Because
when you're
believe it or
looking at
not,
the
there are people
exterior
out there
of
that
homes,
don't know what these words mean.
specifically looking for cameras.
Yes.
If you see a home, just in general, on a canvassing mission, when you see a home that has cameras, do you attempt
Canvassing
to make
mission.
contact with the homeowner?
Yes.
Are you laughing because I called it a mission?
A little bit.
And then
We
you
are
have
too,
people who
thank
are
you.
outside.
Yep.
Do you attempt to make contact with folks who don't have cameras and are not outside?
Yes. In this sort of situation, we went to pretty much every house in the area.
Can you? My screen's already up, Your Honor, but may I have your permission to republish the map?
You may.
I already have it up, Your Honor, but
Investigator
I again?
Dunbar, are you familiar with this map or with the images that are depicted in the map?
Yes.
And can you tell us what this map in general covers?
This would be a bird's eye view of Oak Leaf Court and the crime scene.
There should be a laser pointer up there for you to utilize as I go through this line of questioning. And just to let you know, it only works on the big screen.
Okay.
Thank you. Can you show us generally where you parked when you pulled up?
So I would have parked somewhere in this general area, and we walked up to the scene.
And approximately what time did you arrive in this neighborhood?
I don't remember the exact time, but maybe around 9 a.m., give or take.
After getting the
I
directive,
don't even know which
assignment
house is
to
theirs.
canvassing the area, did you do that?
Oak
Can you recall
Leaf.
the first house that you made a stop at?
Yes.
And do you recall the specific address?
I believe it was 4417 Oak Leaf Court.
Can you point to us on this map
I feel like
what
it's
house was the first one you stopped at?
Yes.
this one up here.
And so just for records purposes,
You
this
can't
would be
do
the
my
house
cursor
to the
either.
west across the cul-de-sac from the 4414 Oak Leaf Drive?
Yes.
Excuse me, Oak Leaf Court Northeast?
Yes.
And whose residence was that?
It was the.
When you approached the Yang residence, can you tell us what, if anything specific, caused you to make contact with that house first?
Well, due to the vicinity of crime scene being directly across the street, and I did notice it had cameras on the exterior of the household.
And when you noticed cameras on the exterior of the household, Investigator Dunbar, can you explain to us, firstly, where those cameras were mounted?
So the Yangs live in a nice little
Right, yeah,
cottage.
They had a Nest camera on the front side of the house near the entryway, and they might have had a Ring camera as well.
And when you say a Nest
That's what he
camera,
said,
is
yes.
that just the brand of it?
That would be the brand of
Yes.
the camera, yes.
And so there was a brand of camera called a Nest mounted to the front of the house.
Yes.
When you say you also believe there was a Ring camera, can you recall where that camera would have been mounted?
I believe it was.
That's a Ring doorbell.
Did
You
you make
talk out of.
contact with
You say, hello,
homeowners
can I help
at
you?
that residence?
Yes.
which specific homeowner did you make contact with?
I believe the first person I spoke to was Bao Li Yang, and his daughter was also home, Lydia Yang.
When speaking with the Yangs, did you or were you able to confirm whether or not the Nest camera mounted in the front of the home was operational?
I did.
And did you have an opportunity to view portions of that footage?
Yes.
And can you describe for us what time period of footage that you had an opportunity to watch?
Yes.
Woman,
I believe it was Mr. Yang.
spit it
access
out.
camera, and I reviewed the footage from approximately 6 a.m. to, I believe it was approximately 8:30 a.m., roughly when officers arrived on scene.
At that time, when you were reviewing it, were you doing that at the Yang household?
Yes.
And between 6 a.m. and 8:30, we're talking 2.5 hours.
Can we turn the lights back on now?
At that time, Investigator Dunbar, did you do a minute-for-minute review?
No, the Nest camera only allows you to scroll, so I did a quick scan through the 2.5 hours to see if I noticed anyone outside or anything suspicious.
In that brief review of the Nest camera that you did while at the Yang residence, was there anything that you did observe as far as people in the area?
The only thing I noticed during the scan of video footage was a white work van. I think it was around approximately 6 a.m.
A white what van?
Work van, or utility van, excuse me.
Were you able to determine if that white utility van belonged in the area?
Later on, there were several houses we looked or that we could see that were under construction, so it didn't seem surprising to see the work van.
Anything else that you observed?
No.
Did you question
Did you review it
anybody?
at the point where you saw officers arrive on scene?
Yes.
And so the Nest camera that was mounted to the front of the Yang household was able to capture police officers?
Yes.
Did you question anybody about the van?
May we approach?
What work van is there at 6 a.m.? I ain't never had no worker at my house at 6 a.m. That night.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've been informed that this was a good time to take our lunch break, so we will start our lunch break now. Even though it's a few minutes before noon, we'll still pick up at 1:15, so I ask that you be back ready to go by 1:15. Again, I'd remind you of the admonition that I gave you last week, just to hit the high points again.
Admonition.
Still more evidence to go.
I don't even know how you say it.
Decisions. Do not discuss this case with anybody else, including amongst yourselves. Avoid any media coverage of this case, and again, no sorts of investigation by you about anything related to this case, people, places, or anything you have anything else related to this case. So with that, you are free to go and have a good lunch.
All rise.
Video.
Correct, Your Honor. During the investigation by Investigator Boson, trying to find out the court parameters,
Shouldn't have even touched it. Just right back where we started from.
Unless you need them. I mean, I wasn't gonna. Yeah, we don't need you here. I don't need you here till after lunch. I don't know if Ms. Slaughter needed you or not. Folks can sit down. Is there? I guess when we were up here, I was informed about potential objections, so we might as well just deal with that now. It seems like rather than just wait and maybe reset the jury. But before we do that, anything else? I know there's a potential issue related to a demonstrative exhibit this afternoon. I don't know if you want to make a record on that now, or you guys want to wait, or.
It might be helpful, Your Honor, if Mr. Johnston informs the court what his objection is to the piece of demonstrative evidence, so that you're aware of that when you're looking for it, or looking at it.
Start with that then. This is, as I understand it, is this the, I believe an opening statement, so it's the YouTube video?
Correct, Your Honor. During the investigation by Investigator Bosenberg, in order to figure out how to operate this firearm, he had to watch an online video that demonstrates essentially a tutorial. It's approximately 5.5 minutes that showed him how to load, unload, and break down this firearm in order for him to do his investigation into the firearm. That video was provided to the state and then provided to the defense, and apparently the defense has some objections to the video.
All right, and again, just to be clear, you're not offering this as substantive evidence. I mean, you're not offering it as an exhibit, I guess. I mean, you're offering it just for demonstrative purposes. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor, that I'm not offering it for substantive purposes. However, I did want to also, because we had talked in addition to trying to find out
courtroom looks old.
Handling of the firearm in the courtroom. And so though it's not being offered necessarily for substantive purposes, it's also being offered to try and minimize the amount of handling done with the firearm in a courtroom full of people.
All right. So, Mr. Johnson, why don't you just, for the record, let me know what...
Why do you need to handle the firearm? Show it.
Objection to the video showing how to load and not load unload the firearm. There's just a lot of talk on this video by this guy. Extraneous talk about the firearm, its history, what a great weapon it is, and all these things that we don't need. My proposal to Ms. Slaughter was to simply show the video without the audio, and the witness on the stand could narrate, what the jurors are seeing. But there's a lot of parts where the gun is also being fired, also, which I think could be prejudicial. So I would prefer, my objection is that we just show the part of the video where a witness can testify that we had to look at this video and show the part of the video that shows the loading of the firearm and leave it at that.
Ms. Slaughter, what is that?
Why do you even need that?
You and Lawrence, but from the state's perspective, what does the commentary add, or why is that necessary to the video?
I disagree with the characterization of what that commentary is. There definitely is explanation and narration regarding the firearm, which, Your Honor, my understanding of what demonstrative evidence is exactly that. Evidence that is not substantive in nature, but would be used to clarify or explain other evidence that is being used substantively in this case. And I think that that's exactly what the narration of this video does, especially since that narration is what explained to this officer how to operate the firearm.
And as far as, I guess, Mr. Johnson's also indicated that, again, I'll watch the video. I haven't seen it, so I'm doing all this questioning without having seen the video at this point. But Mr. Johnson suggested that we stop the video or not show the gun being fired. Why is that necessary from the state's perspective?
The firing of the weapon in the video also gives information related to the volume of the firing from this video, which is an issue here. The lack of gunshots heard. It's a small, quiet rifle, and this video demonstrates how it's used, what it sounds like when it's used, how it's loaded, how it's unloaded, how it's broken down. It demonstrates the gun.
A 22?
That this is not the same gun. It's a like gun, but it's not the same firearm that was in this case.
Anything else from either one of you, Mr. Johnson, Ms. Slaughter, related to the YouTube video?
Not now, Judge.
Only just to point out that this is the kind of thing that we tell the jury not to do. So that's what was my other concern with using a YouTube
Valid.
video. Like I said, I'm completely fine with the video depicting the loading and unloading of the gun. I think it's a great idea so that the witness doesn't accidentally point the gun in the direction of the jury or anything like that, and I'm all in favor of it. Just not with the audio. And or the depictions of the gun being fired.
All right. Okay. Turning next, I guess, to where we left off right before lunch with you came up and Slaughter, you indicated you were going to move on to the Yang residence and ask Officer Dunbar about other residences. Mr. Johnson said, that's all I know at this point, so I don't know, Mr. Johnson, do you want to make a record on that?
Yes, Your Honor, and I just want to state, and I don't know what Ms. Slaughter was planning on going into, but if it's just for the purpose of cameras and where they're pointed, from what I have from my police report, I have Mr. Hansen's residence at 5100 Spring Oak, Charles Choi, 5101 Spring Oak, and those are the only ones that I know about, other than the Yangs that have already been discussed. So if it's just about cameras and where they were pointed, I don't really have an objection. It's just the Downeys were one of the places, and Edwin Downey has testified, but I don't want him going into hearsay about what Edwin Downey or Louise Downey told him. And I was concerned because of the court's previous ruling that Ms. Slaughter might think that she can go into those things. And again, if it's limited to the cameras and where they were pointed, then I don't have an objection.
And by that, he means she's going to do it anyway.
At this point, we can deal with these case by case, because I'm not even sure at this point if an objection will be lodged or not, and that just depends on the questions asked. So I'm happy to defer this and rule on them as they come, unless you want to shed some light on this at this point, Ms. Slaughter.
I'll shed light, but I would like to defer this until the issue arises and I get an actual objection to something that's been asked of a witness on the stand. I do understand what hearsay is. I do think there are some statements that were made to police officers that do not qualify as hearsay that would be admissible, and I don't intend to offer any hearsay that doesn't have a recognized exception, Your Honor.
We'll deal with this as it comes up. Mr. Johnson, do you want to say something else?
I'm just trying to avoid having to usher the jury in and out, and that was my only point.
We may not have to. I mean, if you want to object based on hearsay, again, I don't want, we're not going to have lengthy speaking objections. So if you think she's asking for hearsay and she simply responds, not offering for the truth of the matter, or however she's going to respond, if I need more argument, I'll ask for it. We can address it outside the presence of the jury. But most of these hearsay objections oftentimes are ruled on the spot based on, here's the objection and the response. I'm prepared to do that. If that's appropriate under the existing circumstances at the time.
Well, I'd at least like to have some notice then, instead of them saying, well, what happened when you got to the Downey residence? And then they start talking about what the Downeys told them. I don't have an opportunity to interpose an objection. That's another one of my concerns. So I would at least.
You can object in the middle of whatever they're saying. You're not going to get a warning.
But I understand the court's ruling.
All right. Excuse me. Do you guys have anything else to talk about on the record?
Your Honor, you said you wanted to make a record about the firearm. I don't know if it might be better reserved to have that conversation once Your Honor has had an opportunity to review the video to see what we need. What I want to do with the firearm is going to be dependent on what your ruling is regarding this piece of demonstrative evidence. So we may need to hold off on that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I don't know anything else that we need to discuss on the record.
My only the only thing I want to make a record on is how we're going to handle the firearm in court, ensure that the officer has cleared the weapon, will not be pointing it any direction, those kinds of things. So, and then we don't need to do it now. At some point, if, as it appears likely, based on what I understand, the gun is offered and admitted into evidence, then we'll also need to make a record on how we're going to. I have no plans on sending the firearm back to the jury. If they would want to look at it, we would make that available to them here in open court somehow, but we can discuss the details of that later. But anything else, Ms. Slaughter?
I don't think, unless I don't think necessarily, Your Honor, that we need to make the procedural record about how to handle the firearm on the record, but I would like more information, yes.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Johnson, anything further you need to record on this time?
No, Your Honor.
All right, and that'll conclude the record.
I'm so tired.
It's my understanding that the parties have agreed to actually submit that as an exhibit so the jury would have it available to them and that it would be admitted as State's Exhibit 160. And I'll inform the jury of that when we begin our resume with them after the lunch hour. Is that correct on the state's end? Yes, Judge. All right, and I am going to remind both of you just to turn on your mics when you're speaking. It helps with the people who may be viewing. So, Mr. Johnson, is that correct on your end as far as the map?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Then lastly, I think after Mr. Officer Investigator Dunbar testifies, my understanding is the next witness that the state plans on calling is the medical examiner, and I was alerted to an objection by the state. The state has, I believe, has 40, I believe, total autopsy photos for the three decedents in this case. And so, Mr. Johnson, you indicated you objected to those videos. I'll let you make, or excuse me, those photos. I'll let you make your objection on the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. As Your Honor knows, we had a number of jurors who talked in voir dire about reacting negatively to photos of dead people. I didn't even get to autopsy photos or mention those to the jury, which is my fault. But I don't think we need to make it worse by putting in 40 separate photos when the nature of this crime is not at issue. It's who did this crime. There's plenty of evidence in the record. The state doesn't have a need for photographs of the injuries from the autopsy. There's going to be very little questioning of that witness by us. The injuries to these people are obvious and multiple. There's no doubt about premeditation. There's no doubt about malice. It's whoever killed these people did so with the intent to kill them based on the multiple rounds that were fired. There would have been plenty of time to premeditate going from room to room. So we don't believe that autopsy photos, the state does not have a need for the autopsy photos. They're more prejudicial than probative for that reason, and we would object to all 40 of them.
Ms. Slaughter, Mr. Scheer, who wants to address this from the state's end? Ms. Slaughter?
40 autopsy photos for 3 different dead bodies is minimal, Your Honor. The photos were selected very strategically to avoid gore. They walk from the moment that the body bag with the deceased remains inside of them arrives at the MEs to what is in the body bags at the time that the seal is broken and confirms the toe tag to the bag tag. The rest of them are what are considered clean photographs. They take place after the bodies have been washed. They're not overly gruesome, for lack of a better word, Your Honor, and I don't see any reason why they would not be admitted. Further, regardless of the defense contention that this is a murder and we're just here waiting on who committed the crime, the state still has elements of each crime to prove, and some of those are proven through the, frankly, viciousness and calculatedness of these wounds to each of the deceased bodies, and therefore we're asking that the ones that were submitted as proposed exhibits be permitted by the court.
And
Go ahead.
viciousness is exactly what we're talking about. Viciousness isn't an element of the offense. And it's the viciousness that the state wants to get out by these photos. And it shows that they're meant to inflame the passions of the jury. And again, that's why we're objecting to those photographs.
Ms. Slaughter, you look like you had something more to say?
Viciousness, maliciousness, same thing. It's synonymous, Your Honor.
All right. Again, over the noon hour, I went back. I had looked at them already, but went back and looked at the autopsy photos. I would agree that, I guess, nobody can ever say autopsy photos are pleasant to look at or not gory or not troubling, but in the scheme of autopsy photos that I've seen, these are not as bad as some I've seen. I would agree. A lot of them, in fact, are frankly just pictures of bullets that I presume were found, clothes, tags, pictures of the wounds, and are not overly gory, as Ms. Slaughter said. I do agree that the state has to prove certain things in this case, and they have to prove cause of death, they have to prove malice aforethought, and they're entitled to do so by presenting their case. And so for those reasons and the reasons articulated by Ms. Slaughter, I'm not going to sustain any objection to the autopsy photos based on the grounds raised by Mr. Johnson at this point are overruled. So with that, are we ready to bring in the jury, Ms. Slaughter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson?
Your Honor, first of all, may I have a standing objection to the autopsy photos? I plan on lodging my first objection, but I don't want to have to keep making it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've definitively ruled on the grounds you raised.
I think you can just shut your mouth.
Autopsy photo, I'll consider it a standing objection. I think I've definitively ruled on it, and there'd be no need to object to every single photo based on that ground.
Thank you, Your Honor. Also, I just want the record to reflect we did have a discussion in chambers about Investigator Dunbar's testimony, in that if the state plans to get into any hearsay statements made to Investigator Dunbar about the relationship between the Jacksons, that they would approach the bench first before they ask that question, as per the court's previous ruling.
Right. That was already ruled on the motion limiting. I trust the state has read that and will comply with it. You alerted them to that again in chambers. So, all right. With that, are you good to bring in the jury, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Your Honor.
Dear
Right.
God.
Can we bring that?
Calm down, calm down. I'm so tired. If I fall asleep and you hear snoring, I apologize. It's not the puppy, it's me. How do you know if you have narcolepsy? You just fall asleep at random times. Like, do you fall asleep, like legit knocked out?
Talk about number 6 as well. Yep. Hope everybody had a good lunch break. You may remember we were still, I think, with direct examination of Investigator Dunbar by Ms. Slaughter. Before we resume with that, a couple what I would refer to as housekeeping matters that I want to update you on. First, you've seen a lot of a map so far. Originally, that was not going to be admitted as an exhibit. The parties have now agreed that it makes sense for that to be an exhibit in this case. So I will admit by agreement the map as State's Exhibit 160, and just confirm, Ms. Slaughter, that's acceptable to the state. Mr. Johnson, is that acceptable to Mr. Jackson?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And then, so from now on, we will.
I didn't know that was a
refer to the
question.
map as Exhibit 160, and again, just for your reference purposes, that will be available to you as Exhibit 160 when you begin your deliberations. The other housekeeping matter you may remember several days ago now, but there was an exhibit number, I believe, 6, and this is the camera video from the Yang residence that was admitted, and I think I said it was admitted subject to there was a bench conversation that occurred. Just for your information, any of the issues that were addressed in the bench conversation have been resolved, and Exhibit 6 is admitted as submitted, and just in case you had any questions or
Well, we didn't get to see it.
no further issues with Exhibit 6, and it's admitted without any reservations, objections, or qualifications at all at this point. So with that, I think we're ready.
Well, we didn't get to see it.
Investigator Dunbar and Investigator Dunbar, even though we've had a break, I'm not going to swear you in. You're still on the stand. I'm just going to remind you, sir, that you are still under oath. With that,
Don't fucking lie.
resume your questioning.
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Dunbar, prior to us taking our lunch break, we were
What were we doing?
about,
You don't know.
being at the Yang's residence. Is that correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I have the map back up, and I do not need the lights dimmed?
You're referring to Exhibit 160?
160, my apologies, Your Honor.
All right, should be up.
Thank you. After leaving the Yang residence, did you continue your canvassing efforts?
I did.
And what house did you go to next?
The next house I went to was the Downey residence.
And when you say the Downey residence, who lived there?
Luis and Edwin Downey.
And do you recall the address at that house?
I believe it was
Edwin.
4330 Oakleaf Court.
Is that house visible on the map shown in Exhibit 160?
It is.
Can you use that laser pointer again and show us which house belonged to the Downeys?
I believe it is that one right there.
And I'm going to do it on the television just because it's a little clearer. But from my understanding of what you just pointed at with that laser pointer, you were pointing to the house to the south of 4414.
Correct.
The house that I'm circling with my cursor, is that the house that you pointed to on the big screen?
Yes.
When you went to that address, was there something about that house that drew your attention to it for canvassing purposes?
There was a video camera system on the front of the house that I could see from the street.
When you went to the Downey's house, did you make contact with the residents?
I did.
And in speaking with the residents, did you mention to them the cameras?
Yes.
During your canvass at the Downey residence, did you receive information related to the directionality of those cameras?
Yes.
And how many cameras were there?
2.
Where was the second one located?
On the back, I believe pointed towards the porch.
So the rear camera at the Downey's residence pointed towards their porch?
Correct.
And where did the front camera point towards?
Downwards towards the front porch.
Was there anything else that either of the Downeys saw on June 15th of 2021 that had, that you felt had any investigatory value?
Response?
Not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted, Your Honor.
The objection's overruled. You can answer the question.
No.
Well, I didn't even hear the objection.
At the Downey
Johnson, turn on your mic.
canvassing efforts.
Yes.
And was there another house that you went to during your canvassing?
Yes.
And can you tell us what the address of that house was?
I believe it was 5,000 Spring Oak Court.
Using the cursor again, can you show us on the big screen which house that was?
I believe it was that one right there.
And so, me using my mouse, would this be the first
It's
house?
a cute
in
little
the
house.
Northwest corner of Oakleaf Court.
Oh, this house is right,
Spring Oak Court Northeast.
Correct.
What about that house?
right beside it.
Drew your attention to it or made you want to stop there to canvass?
Because this is their
I
house.
had a camera on the front area of the house.
And how many cameras in total were located at that house?
They stated they had 2 cameras.
Whose house was that?
It was, I believe, a Christopher and Anita Hansen.
Did you collect any of the security cameras or security footage from that address?
No.
Why?
Due to the location of the house and the footage that we already collected from the Yang residence, at the time, I didn't feel it evidentiary or valuable to collect that footage right there. Additionally, Christopher Hansen mentioned that
Turn your mic
I
on.
don't have any objection, Your Honor. I don't think that the remainder of that answer was responsive to my question.
All right, the objection is sustained. Go ahead and ask your next question, Ms. Slaughter.
Thank you. Investigator Dunbar, when speaking with the Hansens, did you ask them if they had seen anything out of the ordinary on June 15th of 2021?
I did.
Objection's overruled.
Did you ask them,
Yes, sorry.
and had they seen anything that they considered out of the ordinary?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
No.
Did your canvassing effort continue after that?
Yes.
Your canvassing mission.
On Spring Oak Court Northeast, did you stop there?
Yes.
And which house was that?
I believe it was 5001 Spring Oak Court.
Maybe 5101?
That sounds correct, yes.
Okay.
It was directly across the street.
And when you say directly across the street, are we talking the southwest corner?
Yes.
Is this the house? And when I say southwest corner, I apologize. Southwest corner of Spring Oak Court Northeast and Oakleaf Court Northeast intersection?
Yes, that's the house.
Good Lord.
What about that house made you stop there?
It was right across the street from the Hansens, and it was nearby.
Were there any cameras on that house?
No.
Did you speak with the homeowners at that address?
Yes.
Did they see anything out of the ordinary that morning?
Overruled.
No.
What'd you do, investigator, after you went to the 5101 Spring Oak Court Northeast address?
I believe we completed our canvas for that day.
Did that conclude your involvement in this case?
No.
What else did you do?
The following day, investigator Thomas and myself were instructed to go back out
What
to
else did you do?
4414 Oakleaf Court and conduct an additional canvas around the household and in the wooded area.
And when you say you were instructed, who were you instructed by?
Commanders in the
Somebody else.
Investigative Division, Lieutenant Dave Dostal and I believe Lieutenant Josh McKelvin.
Were you given specific instructions on what additional canvassing they wanted you to complete?
Yes, they wanted Investigator DeMoss and myself to focus our canvas in the wooded area to the north and east of the residence due to the defendant claiming that the suspect had exited the house and that was a possible path of travel.
Huh. Whoa, stop doing that. I'm trying to look at these houses.
Looking at a zoomed in image of Exhibit 160, the map as we've previously been calling it. Can you
Well,
use
thank
your,
God.
will you actually, ma'am, will you dim it just a little bit for me, please?
Because that's the house right here. That's their house.
Investigator, I'm going to have you come down from the witness stand, please. You can use the television instead of the big screen. Can you point out for us what specific areas of the wooded area that you're referring to you performed a canvass in? How far to the west of the house did you go in the wooded area? And so when you say
I can't
where
hear
it became thick and difficult
nothing.
to travel in, are you meaning it was thick and difficult to travel further to the west?
I was attempting to go all the way up to Ushers Ferry Road. There's a lot of down trees on the brush, so I was unable to get to Ushers Ferry Road. Yeah, sorry. I traveled to the north to Ushers Ferry Road, and up until about right here, I didn't have any farther to get to Ushers Ferry Road.
Thank you. If you can have a seat, please.
You're bossy.
Ms. Slaughter, are you done with Exhibit 160 proceeding?
For now, yes, Your Honor.
All right.
When you say due to derecho damage, those of us who were here for the derecho know what that means, but can you describe what you saw in the woods that was preventing you from getting through the woods to Usher Ferry?
As I previously stated, there were down trees, thick brush. It was so thick that I couldn't get any farther north to Ushers Ferry Road like I wanted to. So I took my vehicle and I drove around to Ushers Ferry Road and then canvassed back southward. While I did so, I had to climb over several trees, almost like a balancing act on one of the tree limbs just to get back southwards towards the residence.
So when you got back in your car, you drove around to Usher Ferry Road.
Correct.
And when you say you continued your canvassing efforts, you came in at the top side of that wooded area and worked your way towards the house?
Correct.
Were you able to get through the downed trees and the brush to get back into the backyard area of 4414?
Yes, but it was difficult.
You said you had to climb over some trees,
Yes.
touched a lot of things,
Yes.
damage your clothes at all?
I don't know if I damaged my clothes, but they were very dirty.
Very dirty?
Yes.
Bet your wife wasn't very happy about that. Figured she'd make a joke about that.
Did you make any canvassing efforts at the home?
No, you're canvassing
on Usher
mission.
Ferry Road?
Yes. When I was done canvassing southwards back towards the residence, I re-entered my vehicle and I went, I guess technically north and south on Ushers Ferry Road, all the way to Blair's Ferry, looking for additional camera systems.
Was there anywhere that you stopped on Usher Ferry Road?
Yes.
And is that location where you stopped visible on the map shown in Exhibit 160?
Yes.
May I have that back, Your Honor?
You may.
Can you see the house on the big screen?
Yes, I believe it was that one right there.
And what made you stop at that house?
They had a video system on the front area of the house. I don't remember exactly where.
Were you ever able to make contact with the occupants or residents of that home?
I don't recall for sure. I think they contacted me at a later date and said the camera.
You may.
Ugh. It's not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. But it's still hearsay. Somebody said the somebody said.
All right. The objection is overruled. Investigator Dunbar, if you remember, you can finish your answer.
Okay. I don't recall if they contacted me.
Did you ever collect any video from that household?
No.
While you were canvassing the wooded area between the backyard at the Jackson home and Ushers Ferry Road, was there anything of evidentiary value that you found?
No.
Yes, a leaf. I found leaves.
Nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson, examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No, I have nothing.
Good afternoon.
You, as a police officer, are trained in making reports, correct?
Correct.
You're told that you can write all you want in a report, right?
Yes.
There's no page limit.
Correct.
There's no word limit.
Correct.
And if you see something of importance, you put it in your report.
Correct.
Oh my gosh, she probably only has a one-page report.
Correct.
And you would agree that people who didn't see anything that morning would be important, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And yet, in your entire report about the canvassing that you did, you did not once
Canvassing.
mention that any of these people said they didn't see anything that day, did you?
I'd have to see my report.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
No, you're right.
I can write whatever the fuck I want to write in my report. They didn't see anything. What am I going to write? They didn't see anything? That's not important. They didn't see nothing. If they saw something, that'd be important. Correct? I don't know.
I believe so.
And did you put in there, in any of those conversations, that any of those people told you that they didn't see anything that day?
I believe the Yangs did.
So you did put it in for the Yanks. You're saying it's in your report that the Yanks said they didn't see anything?
I thought they said they didn't hear or see anything. Maybe I misread that.
You said, the Young stated that this was not abnormal. They didn't see
Yangs.
anything out of the ordinary. But there's nothing in here about them not seeing anything that day. Oh, wait. You said they had not heard anything this morning. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Okay, so when somebody tells you that they didn't see anything that morning, you knew how to write it down, right?
Correct.
And you put it in your report.
Correct.
So when the Yanks told you they didn't see or hear anything that morning, you wrote that down.
Yes.
And yet you didn't write it down for anybody else, correct?
I did not see that. Correct.
You didn't write it down for the Downies, right?
Correct.
You didn't write it down for Mr. Hansen,
Correct.
and you didn't write it down for Mr. Choi.
Correct.
And of course, you wrote nothing down on the 4461 Usher's Ferry because they never got back to you.
Yeah, they didn't answer the door either.
So basically, you didn't ask them,
I would have asked them.
and you would have put it in your report if you had.
If they saw something abnormal or out of the ordinary, I would have documented that.
Now, turning your attention to Mr. Hansen, I believe you testified that that was 5,000 Spring or Oak Court Northeast. Could that have been 5,100?
I could have gotten the address wrong.
Would you rely on your report as opposed to what you testified to?
If I could see my report, yes, I'd go off that.
You take my word for it. It says, it's no big deal. I don't care that you got the address wrong.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay, all right, that's fine. And, but you did have a conversation with Mr. Hansen at that residence, did you not?
Yes, it was relatively brief, but yes.
And he said he had 2 cameras. You testified about that.
Yes.
But he did not believe any of them pointed towards the area of 4414 Oakleaf Court.
Correct.
And that's why you didn't collect any video from that camera.
I apologize. It was my belief that maybe the backyard camera might point that direction, but due to the video I saw at the Yang's residence, which covered all of Oakleaf Court and I think Scarlet Sage Drive, I didn't find it important at that time to stop for an extended period of time to gather that video right then.
I'm saying you didn't gather any video from his house, did you?
No, I did not.
And it would have, he said he did not believe any of them pointed towards the area of 4414 Oakleaf Court.
Okay.
That's what you wrote, right? Do you want to see it?
That's okay, I believe you.
So that's why you didn't collect it, because it wouldn't have been pointed in the right direction.
It would have been pointed northbound or northwards, and there was a wooded area behind the Hanson's house, so I probably was thinking that it didn't capture anything.
Okay, thank you. And then with respect to 5101 Spring Oak Court that you've testified to, Mr. Choi told you he didn't have any cameras.
Correct.
Again, nothing in there about asking him whether he saw anything or not. There's nothing in your report about that, is there?
If he saw something, I would have documented it.
So as I understand your testimony about the next day, you're saying that you couldn't get through the woods in your initial effort when you were going towards Usher's Ferry Road from the Jackson house.
Correct.
But you could get to the Jackson house when you went south from Usher's Ferry Road back towards the Jackson's house. You were able to make it all the way.
Yeah, excuse me. I had to go up the embankment, and there was a downed tree that I was able to hop up on and cross over so I could get through the heavy shrubbery and trees.
So maybe you just went through a different way on the way back than you went on the way out.
I tried to position my vehicle right where I had ended my initial canvas northbound, so I tried to make it about the same area.
I understand, but maybe you didn't take exactly the same path.
Possibly.
And also maybe you were trying hard. I'm just asking you, is that possible that you just made a greater effort on the way back?
I feel like if I could have got to Ushers Ferry Road, I would have,
Well, I mean, is there any reason why you could only make it one way and not the other way?
because of the down trees and shrubbery.
Right, but I'm just saying, what difference does it make which approach you use?
Well, it was uphill to get to Ushers Ferry Road, and when I was coming back, it was downhill, so it was a little bit easier to get over the down trees.
It was a little bit easier?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Can you redirect, Ms. Slaughter?
Just briefly, Your Honor. Investigator Dunbar, when you stopped at all these residences during your canvassing efforts and made contact with the homeowners, would it be fair to say you asked several questions?
Yes.
And some of the answers to those questions were documented in your reports,
I'm
correct?
leading, Your Honor.
Overruled, you can answer the question.
Yes.
At the end of your contact and or communication with the residents of these houses that you canvassed at, did you provide them a business card?
All of them.
And when you provided the business card, did you tell them, if you can think of anything else or remember anything out of the ordinary that comes to mind later, call me
Yes, and I circle my email and phone number.
on the business card?
Yes.
And so is it your testimony today, Investigator Dunbar, as you sit there, that you asked all of the people that you canvassed at whether or not they had seen anything out of the ordinary?
Yes.
And asked them if they remember something out of the ordinary later, give me a call.
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson, anything further?
Again, you were able to write that down when you talked about the Yangs, and you put it in your report that they didn't see anything out of the ordinary, correct?
Correct.
You didn't for anybody else in your report, did you?
No.
You knew how to write it, right?
Correct.
You had the time to write it, right?
Yes.
It was important information, was it not?
Yes.
And you didn't put it in your report.
I did not.
No further questions.
Cool.
Ms.
Thanks.
Slaughter?
I'm lazy. No further questions.
Investigator
Let that
Dunbar,
shit
you
go.
put in your
Oh.
report, and I quote, "Each household I stopped at, I provided my business card and told them to contact me." You wrote him, not them. Told him to contact me if anything out of the ordinary would come to mind at a later date, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Making sure. You got another question, Mr. Johnson?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Investigator Dunbar,
Making sure.
sit down, and I believe you are free to leave.
Thank you.
Ha. That is where we are going to end. Well, hold on. Let's see if they have anything else to say or they're just going to call the next witness. I think they're just going to call the next witness.
Is the state protocol section witness?
State calls Kelly Cruz to the stand.
Protocol, sex the
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
witness.
Ms. Cruz is coming up here after lunch. I know everybody maybe feel a little tired. Why don't you just stand?
Yep. After lunch and after dinner, everybody is a little bit tired. That's me. Okay. Well, I believe she's the last witness. Nope, there's two more after her. But we're going to end it for today. Oh, because I'm tired and I'm about to fall asleep. So I don't really know what. I wish the other lady was there. I hope she's back. I'm sorry about her grandma, man. I mean, she really wasn't. Dog is still chewing on a glove. She wasn't really cross-examining anybody, and I don't know who this Johnson dude is, but he's annoying. I don't care for him. He's just, I don't know. I don't guess I see people's angles. Like, you wrote it for one, but you didn't write it for anybody else. Okay. So I'm lazy. The fuck? Okay. But I mean, I know when I used to work even still now, when you have to do your notes and you have to do all of the things, the more details in your notes, the better. If you don't detail your notes, which I don't, but if you don't, they will go back and they can use them. And if they're not detailed enough, then, like, if it's not in your notes, it didn't happen. So, I mean, I get it. But Jesus. I always wondered how I would be up on the stand if somebody was cross-examining me or direct exam or whatever, but if I had to testify, ooh, I'd be nervous, but I think as soon as somebody would catch an attitude, I would catch an attitude. Pretty sure. And then that wouldn't look good for whatever I was trying to do. It wouldn't look good. Sorry. All right. Well, we will pick back up at a later date. But it's almost done. I should just finish it tonight, but I don't know. We'll see. I should. Oh, we'll see. But I'm going to end this video here. So, remember, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so you can see all of my things. Go back and watch things. But really, really, please, just like and subscribe. Get my stuff out there. Get the content out there. Get my subscriber count up to where it needs to be. I need to get that up there. Get my watch time up. You know, if I can't do that, then I can't, make money on here. I have so many videos on here. I've spent so much time doing all of this stuff. It's like a third job. I've got my first job. I've got my kids, and now I've got this. And come on now. Help a girl out. All right. But yeah, like, subscribe. And this is really, it's only because I would like to get some money because I'm doing it. That would just be a bonus. I just actually like doing this. But if I could get paid to actually do something that I like to do, that'd be fucking awesome. Like, yeah. So, okay. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Okay. Doses.